She thought the Alpha was working late until she smelled another Omega on him. The moon hung low over Velmora, its silver light spilling across the obsidian walls of the royal palace. Frost glimmered on the towers and the wind carried the faint scent of pine and smoke from the distant forest. Inside the highest chamber of the palace, Lysara, the moon-bound Omega Queen, sat alone by the window, her hands folded in her lap. Her golden hair caught the moonlight, shining like strands of captured starlight, yet her eyes were shadowed with unease. It had been weeks since Kalion, her Alpha King, had stayed home through the night. Nights when she would wait for his return, listening to the sounds of the palace, footsteps in the corridors, whispers of servants, the distant howl of wolves in the valley below. But those nights had grown rare, and Lysara felt the ache of his absence pressing into her bones like winter frost. She tried to remind herself that Kalion had duties that stretched beyond the palace walls.
He was a king after all, protector of the borders.
The ruler of many packs, the Alpha of Alphas. And yet, no matter how many times she told herself to trust him, a small, sharp thread of fear tugged at her chest. The bond between them, once strong as steel, had begun to hum low and uncertain. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Lysara paced the hall outside Kalion's private chambers. The scent of the night wind mingled with something else, something faint and unfamiliar, drifting through the hall. Her nose twitched. A delicate perfume, soft and earthy, but unmistakable to an Omega's senses. Her heart beat faster. She pressed her hand against the stone wall, trying to steady herself. Could it be her imagination? A servant's perfume, perhaps. Or the lingering scent of flowers carried in from the gardens. But when Kalion finally returned, the truth hit her before she even saw him. The moment his shadow fell across the hall, she smelled it. Another Omega. Clinging to him, subtle but undeniable. The scent wrapped around him like a second skin, one that did not belong to her.
Lysara's breath caught.
Her pulse thundered in her ears. She had trained herself to control her emotions, to remain composed, especially in public. But now, alone in the quiet corridor, she could not stop the sharp, painful jolt of betrayal. Kalion's voice called softly from the end of the hall. "Desara, are you here?" She turned, her face calm, her eyes masking the storm within. "I am here," she said, her voice steady, yet her mind raced. How long had it been? How long had the other Omega been near him? He stepped closer, his tall frame filling the hall with presence. His dark hair fell over his brow, eyes as stormy as the northern seas, and when he smiled at her, it should have warmed her heart. But it did not. Kaelion's gaze lingered on her, searching. Desculai.
You seem troubled, my queen. Lysara forced herself to nod, keeping her tone light. Just
the cold, perhaps. The halls feel longer in winter. He frowned slightly, sensing the tension in her body, but he did not mention the scent. He never did. That had always been Kalion's way, to protect those he loved by carrying burdens alone. She followed him to the sitting chamber, her senses unwillingly alert to every movement. Every step he took seemed to echo with the scent she could not ignore. Her mind refused to rest, piecing together fragments of truth she could not yet confirm. The palace was quiet that night, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Kalion poured 2 cups of spiced wine, handing one to her. The warmth seeped into her hands, but not into her heart. "Tell me what troubles you," he said finally, his voice low and careful. "You do not speak in riddles tonight." Lysara hesitated. To speak of the scent of the other Omega was to accuse him. and she did not know if it was betrayal or necessity. Kalian had secrets, yes, but he had never misled her intentionally, had he? Instead, she said, "The nights feel colder when you are away." "What keeps you from home?" Kalian's eyes darkened, the flicker of shadow crossing his face. "Velmora is vast, my queen. The borders require attention. There are dangers that must be faced." "Yes," she whispered, forcing herself to nod. "I understand." But understanding felt hollow. She wanted to confront him, to demand truth. She wanted to believe that the bond they shared, the celestial bond forged under the blood eclipse, could withstand any distance or secret. And yet, doubt crept in, slow and bitter. The next morning, Lysara roamed the palace in restless silence. Servants avoided her gaze, sensing the tension in the queen's steps. Even the wolves that patrolled the courtyard seemed uneasy, their ears flicking toward unseen threats. In the courtyard garden, frost-covered roses shivered under the pale sun. Lysara reached out, touching the petals, and inhaled deeply. The familiar scents grounded her: earth, frost, pine. Yet beneath them lingered the foreign Omega's scent, faint now, teasing her senses. She pressed her hand to her chest. Purr. Her wolf, bonded to Kalion's, stirred restlessly within her. Omegas had instincts sharper than any weapon. They felt truth before it revealed itself, and hers screamed at her now. Something was wrong. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps on the marble path. Talion appeared, his cloak dusted with frost from the borderlands. His eyes met hers, and she noticed a weariness in them, something hidden behind his alpha strength. "You have wandered early," he observed, voice low. "The frost has bitten the garden."
You should not risk your health.
I am well.
She said softly, though she did not move.
It is
Peaceful here. Kalion studied her, his expression unreadable. There was love in his gaze, yes, but also distance, a guardedness that pained her more than anger ever could. Lysara, he began, hesitating as though choosing his words carefully. "Burdens I carry. Do not take them as rejection of our bond." The pain and longing in her eyes, hidden beneath calm.
I do not understand why these burdens keep you from me, she whispered.
Nor why they leave traces I cannot ignore. Kalion flinched almost imperceptibly. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Words had power, and some truths were heavier than steel. Days passed, and the tension between them became a quiet storm. At court gatherings, Lysara's gaze followed Kalion constantly, reading him as one reads a book written in shadow and flame. She noticed small things, a faint perfume clinging to his cloak, hands brushing another too closely, gestures that seemed intimate when they should not. She did not accuse him! She could not. He was her mate, her alpha, and their bond demanded loyalty. Yet every fiber of her being trembled with the need to know. Then came the night of the hollow moon, a night when nobles, alphas, and omegas gathered to honor the lunar spirits. The halls glowed with silver light, and the scent of flowers and candle smoke filled the air. Lysara walked among the courtiers, her presence radiant, yet her mind was elsewhere. Us. She sensed it again before she saw it. The other Omega's scent, unmistakable, carried through the marble corridors. Her wolf shivered, claws digging into her soul. Breaths. She followed it silently, her movements ghost-like among the throng. Through a side passage past tapestries depicting the kingdom's ancient wars, she found the source. Sereth, a veiled Omega priestess from the forbidden Crescent Vale, stood close to Kalion. Her hand brushed against his, light as moonlight on snow. The sight struck Lysara like a blade of ice. Her chest tightened, her heartbeat pounding so loudly she feared he could hear it. The bond that tied them thrummed weakly under the shock, not broken, but cracked. Kalion finally noticed her. Their eyes met. His expression, as always, was calm, commanding. But this time it faltered. For the first time in years, Lysara saw hesitation there. And in that hesitation, 1,000 questions spiraled like black stars in her mind. Had he betrayed her? Or had he suffered in silence, carrying secrets to protect her? The night air shifted, carrying both the scent of the priestess and the scent of frost and blood. Lysara's wolf whimpered softly inside her. She stepped back, unsure whether to confront him or flee. Kalion took a step forward, reaching toward her, but she did not respond. Despair. Not yet. Because the bond was trembling. Because her heart was heavy with fear, longing, and pain. Because some truths were never meant to be revealed all at once. And in that frozen moment, Lysara realized that nothing in Velmora, not even the sacred celestial bond that had joined their fates, could prepare her for what was coming.
The palace seemed colder than usual the morning after the hollow moon gathering.
Frost lay thick across the black marble floors of the obsidian palace, curling along the edges like pale fingers. Lysara awoke in her chamber, sunlight barely piercing the thick curtains. Her wolf, restless, prowled beneath her skin, whispering unease into her mind. Kalion had not returned from his early morning council meeting. Beth. He tried to push the memory of Sereth aside, the other Omega scent, the closeness, the almost intimate touch, but it clung to her like smoke. Her heart tightened as she remembered the flicker of their mating bond, dimming for the first time. Lysara dressed in simple silks, dark as night, and walked through the palace halls. Servants avoided her gaze, sensing the tension that clung to her like a shadow. She entered the great library, seeking solace in scrolls and books that spoke of old magic, the history of Velmora, and the bonds between Alpha and Omega. Yet even among the words of wisdom, she found no answers to the questions that plagued her. Why had Kalion not told her the truth? Why had he allowed another Omega near him? And why, despite the love and bond they shared, did the bond itself feel fragile, almost poisoned? Before she could dwell longer, a soft knock came at the door. Lysara turned to see Sereth, the priestess from Crescent Vale, standing with a small scroll in her hands. Her veil hid most of her face, but her eyes glimmered with a strange knowledge, a hint of warning. "My queen," Sereth said quietly. "May I speak with you?" Lysara's heart skipped. She had wanted to confront Kalion, to demand truth. But Sereth, she did not trust her.
And yet Sereth did not speak as an enemy. There was no malice in her voice. "Capture."
"Bick," Lysara said, motioning her closer. Sereth stepped inside, carefully, her movements like a shadow gliding across stone. She unrolled the scroll and held it before Lysara. Ancient symbols, glowing faintly, marked the parchment. Lysara felt a tremor through her soul, the faintest echo of the bond that tied her to Kalion pulsing in rhythm with the symbols.
This
"Is from the Crescent Vale," Sereth said. "It speaks of a curse laid upon your line. Upon the Alpha who bears the crown and the Omega destined to bond with him." Trembled.
A curse.
What do you mean? Sareth's eyes softened. Long ago, before your birth, the Crescent Veil Omegas bound a protective magic to your alpha line. It was meant to keep peace among the packs. But there is a condition. If an alpha rejects the rites, the sacred rituals of the veil, the bond with his omega weakens over time. The connection falters. Love becomes strained. Intimacy becomes painful. And the bond can even begin to die. Lysara felt her chest tighten. Every instinct inside her screamed, warning her that Kalian had not told her this. Her mind raced. Could this explain the flickering mark of their bond? Could this explain the foreign scent clinging to him? He never told me, Lysara whispered. Her wolf whimpered softly. Betrayal, even if unintentional, stung. He believed he could carry the burden alone, Sareth said. Protect the Omega. But the curse feeds on distance, on secrets, on secrets. It grows stronger with every unspoken word, every act of solitude. Your bond, it is weakening. Breaths. And if not healed, the bond will break entirely, not just between you, but between your packs. Velmora itself may suffer. Lysara's breath caught. She had thought she understood Kalian, trusted him completely. And yet, the very trust that had bound them together had been undermined by silence, by secrets. Why was I not told? She asked again, voice sharper this time. Why would he let this poison our bond? Terra's eyes held a hint of sorrow. He did it to protect you. He believed that if you knew the truth, you would bear the curse yourself. He endured it alone, hoping to shield you from the pain. Lysara's hands clenched at her sides. Secrets. She did not know whether to feel anger or sorrow first. She had loved him, still loved him, but the betrayal and silence burned deeper than any deception. Where is he now? She demanded. Kalian is preparing for the rites, Sareth said, but time is running short. The bond will fail completely if the lunar eclipse arrives before the ritual is complete. Lysara's wolf stir inside her. It was days away. Every heart beat counted. Every moment of silence, every unasked question had allowed the curse to grow.
Without hesitation, Lysara left the library and sought Kalian.
Palace corridors were quiet, the usual hum of court life muted as the servants sensed the growing tension between the king and queen. She found him in the war room, maps spread across the table, his head bent in concentration. Well, he looked up as she entered, and for a moment their eyes met. Lysara, he said softly, though the weight in his gaze mirrored the heaviness in hers.
You should not be here.
I will not stay away, she said firmly. Not while this curse threatens our bond and our kingdom.
Tell me everything, Kalian. Every truth you've hidden. He sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. His wolf growled low inside him, sensing her determination, her power.
There are truths too heavy for words, my queen. Some burdens cannot be shared without shattering what they are meant to protect.
I am not fragile, Kalian. I can endure truth.
I can endure anything if we face it together.
His eyes softened, and for a moment she saw the man beneath the crown, beneath the Alpha Command.
The man who had once held her under the blood eclipse and promised that no force could ever separate them. I summoned Sereth, he admitted quietly.
Not for pleasure. Not for betrayal. The Crescent Veil Priestess. She is a vessel for the curse. Jewel! He glances around and each ritual brings me closer to its containment. The scent you noticed it was necessary. The ritual demands proximity, soul touch, transfer of essence. I endured it to protect you from pain, from the full weight of the curse. Lysara's heart both softened and shattered. Relief washed through her, mingled with anger at his secrecy. He had risked his bond, endured torment, and yet never told her. The love that should have been pure between them had been shadowed by sacrifice and silence. You should have trusted me, she said softly. Psst. I would have endured it. With you. Not for you. Kalion stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper.
I feared that if you knew, you would carry the curse instead of me. I feared it would weaken you, and Velmora.
And yet, Lysara said, our bond is weakening anyway. He looked at her, pain and regret etched into every line of his face. The curse grows stronger with every unspoken truth. I see it now.
A silence stretched between them, thick and heavy as the storm clouds gathering beyond the palace walls. Lysara's wolf pressed close to her thoughts, urging action.
The bond was fragile. The kingdom itself trembled beneath the weight of secrecy and magic. We must act, Lysara said finally. Together. There is no other way. Kalion nodded, though the shadow of fear lingered. The rites will be dangerous. You must be prepared, not just for the curse, but for the choices it demands. The bond cannot survive on force alone.
It requires balance, trust, and surrender. I am ready, Lysara said.
Her wolf howled softly, a promise of loyalty and strength.
I am not afraid.
Whatever comes, I face it with you. Kalion reached for her hand, and their palms met. The warmth of his touch was familiar, grounding. Yet the bond between them thrummed erratically, faint sparks of light flickering like a dying flame. Bowing low. The ritual must begin, she said. The lunar eclipse approaches. Delay will cost more than the bond. Lysara felt a chill run through her. Every instinct screamed warning. She had known love could demand sacrifice, but the magnitude of what lay ahead pressed upon her soul like an avalanche. They moved together through the palace, ascending the steps to the Moonspire Tower, the heart of lunar magic in Velmora. The halls were lined with silver candles, casting dancing shadows across the walls. Lysara's wolf pulsed, sensing the magic that thrummed through the stone in the air.
At the top, the ritual chamber awaited. Symbols carved in obsidian glimmered faintly in the candlelight.
The lunar sigils, etched centuries ago, pulsed in rhythm with the moon itself. Kalion stood at the center, Sereth beside him, and Lysara stepped forward, her breath steady despite the storm inside her. Remember, Sereth intoned, voice echoing like wind over ice. The curse feeds on imbalance, on secrets, on fear. Only together, in truth and surrender, can you hope to contain it. Period. Lysara looked at Kalion. She saw the man, the king, the Alpha. and the one who loved her, even through silence and pain. She placed her hand on his, feeling the thrum of his pulse against hers. The bond flickered again, but this time it responded to her courage. Sparks of silver light danced across their skin, the first sign that truth, honesty, and shared will could combat even the deepest magic. Yet as they prepared to begin, Sereth's veil shifted, and Lysara caught a glimpse of her eyes, sharp, knowing, and almost sorrowful. A warning that the ritual would not be simple, that darkness still lingered, unseen and patient. Winter had fallen over Velmora faster than anyone could remember. The rivers froze along their edges, winds howled through the valleys, and even the wolves of the royal packs moved slower, uneasy with the unnatural cold. The palace, once a place of safety, now felt like a cage. Frost crept along the black marble floors and windows, and the scent of snow and pine pressed into every room. Lysara sat alone in the moon-spired tower, her legs crossed on the cold stone floor, her breath forming small clouds in the chill.
Outside, the lunar eclipse began to cast its pale red light across the kingdom.
Her wolf shifted restlessly, warning her that time was slipping away. The bond with Caelion pulsed faintly, fragile and trembling like the last flame before the wind snuffs it out. She could no longer remain sheltered. She understood now that the curse, born of ancient magic from the Crescent Veil, could not be faced by Caelion alone. Every day he had endured the ritual in secret. Every night he had carried pain he thought he must bear for her. And yet the bond, the connection meant to unite them, was decaying because it had been built on secrets and silence. Desk. Her hand pressed to the mark on her collarbone, glowing faintly in rhythm with Caelion's heartbeat. She could feel the pulse of his soul across the miles.
She needed answers, and she needed power. Not as an alpha, not as an omega subordinate, but as a mate equal to him.
Without waiting for Caelion to summon her, Lysara dressed in her traveling cloak, dark as the shadowed moon, and set out for the Crescent Vale. The path was treacherous, covered in frost and fallen branches, yet she moved with determination. Her wolf guided her, every step taken with purpose, instinct sharpening her senses. Days passed, and she moved through forests where the trees whispered secrets of ancient magic, over mountains where the winds seemed to carry echoes of old kings and queens, and across rivers frozen solid with ice so clear she could see the spirits trapped beneath.
Finally, she arrived at the hidden valley of the Crescent Vale. The air was heavy with magic.
Ancient stones rose like jagged teeth from the ground, inscribed with symbols of power older than the kingdom itself. Lysara's heart raced. Every step toward the heart of the valley pulled at her very soul. She could feel the faint glow of the curse within her, biting at her strength, urging her to turn back.
At the center of the valley, a circle of standing stones radiated energy.
Within the circle, Sereth waited, eyes gleaming with anticipation. The priestess stepped aside as Lysara entered, revealing the final secret of the curse.
The curse was never meant to be contained, Sereth said softly, her voice echoing like wind through the stones. It was meant to test the strength of your bond.
Only a bond built on equality, not dominance, can survive it. Your alpha has endured pain alone, thinking it protects you, but the curse feeds on imbalance, on secrets, on fear.
He must face it with you as an equal, or the bond will break entirely.
Lysara knelt within the circle, placing her hands on the frost-covered ground. She could feel the energy of the stones rising, ancient power thrumming beneath her fingers. Deske, her wolf howled within her, urging her to take strength, to awaken the force inside herself. I understand now, she whispered, voice steady.
I will not be hidden or protected. I will face this, with him, as his equal.
Sereth's eyes softened. It will not be easy. You must surrender control. Give up the restraints that tradition has placed on you, and demand the Alpha to do the same. Only then will the curse lose its power. Lysara rose, feeling the frost bite her fingers, the magic of the valley seeping into her bones. She closed her eyes, calling to Kalion with her soul, sending him a pulse of strength and challenge. Across the distance he felt it, stumbling as the bond reacted to her courage. Back in Velmora, Kalion's body trembled. The curse, no longer restrained by secrecy, lashed at him with the force of winter storms. His wolf roared within him, clawing at the edges of control. He fell to his knees, the faint glow of his mating mark twisting into black shadows. He understood now. Lysara had awakened. She would not be hidden, she would not endure silently, and she would not let him bear the curse alone. He rose, summoning the strength he had always kept secret, and transformed partially into his wolf form. Shadowed and immense, his presence filled the palace halls, wings of dark mist stretching from him like smoke in the wind. He was fearsome, beautiful, and in pain. Yet in that pain, there was clarity. The bond pulsed again, responding to Lysara's courage. Sparks of silver and crimson streaked between them, the first sign that the ancient magic could be shaped, not by dominance but by balance.
As Lysara returned from the Crescent Vale, the palace sensed her arrival.
The gates opened, as if moved by her will alone. She strode through the halls with purpose, the frost of winter crunching beneath her feet. Her eyes sought Kalion, and she found him in the throne room, shadowed by the flickering light of candles and the unnatural red hue of the lunar eclipse bleeding through the stained glass windows. He turned as she entered. The bond between them pulsed violently, light and shadow twisting, almost snapping. They approached each other slowly, eyes locked, words unnecessary. The air between them crackled with tension, longing, and the promise of both pain and healing.
Kaon, Lysara said softly, voice steady, carrying the weight of her choice.
The curse will not be endured by one alone. We face it together, as equals. Kalion bowed his head, the enormity of the moment weighing on him.
I believed I was protecting you, but I see now.
I cannot carry this alone. They stepped into the center of the throne room, and the lunar eclipse reached its zenith. Shadows danced across the walls, the bond glowing and flickering. Sareth appeared beside them, chanting softly, her words weaving through the air like threads of silver fire. Lysara placed her hands on Kalion's chest, feeling the pulse of his heart, the beat of his soul. The bond throbbed violently, the curse lashing at them, testing their resolve. His hands went to hers, their fingers entwining, and for the first time, he did not try to shield her.
He surrendered. Not weakness, but trust.
You are equal to me, he whispered, his voice trembling. I will no longer carry this alone. The power that had been withheld, the love restrained by fear and silence, flowed between them now. Sparks of light raced across their bodies, the ancient magic reacting not to dominance or control, but to shared strength, honesty, and surrender. The palace trembled. Candles flickered violently. Shadows writhed along the walls as if alive. The bond pulsed, bright and red, then silver, then crimson again. The curse fought, lashing at them, but each strike was met with unity, with courage, with balance. For the first time, Lysara and Kalion understood the true meaning of their bond. It was not about Alpha over Omega. It was not about power or secrecy. It was about trust, surrender, and the choice to stand together, no matter the storm. But as the ritual reached its peak, a shadow detached itself from the corner of the room. A presence that neither Kalion nor Lysara had expected. Another Omega, one whose scent had haunted Lysara since the hollow moon. The bond pulsed violently, reacting to the intrusion with pain and warning. The figure stepped forward, and Lysara recognized the shape beneath the veil. Sereth's expression hardened for the first time, her voice tense. The ritual is not yet complete. Stay where you are, Brunt. But Lysara's instincts screamed danger. The foreign Omega's aura was strong, ancient, and unreadable. The bond between her and Kalian shrieked in alarm.
Kalian moved protectively in front of her, his wolf form flaring with shadowed light. The palace walls seemed to close in, the air thick with magic and tension.
The foreign Omega's eyes met Lysara's, and a chill ran through her soul.
The bond pulsed once, twice, as if warning of a choice yet to be made, a path that could either heal or shatter everything. The throne room of Velmora trembled under the light of the blood eclipse. Shadows twisted along the walls like living spirits, casting elongated shapes across the obsidian floors. The air was thick with frost and magic, charged with an energy so powerful it hummed in every stone. Her cloak catching the crimson glow, and Kalian beside her, his wolf form towering, shadowed in silver and midnight mist. Between them the bond pulsed like a heartbeat, erratic yet undeniable. The foreign Omega from the Crescent Vale remained at the edge of the room, her eyes calm but unreadable. Sereth's voice echoed through the chamber, guiding the ritual. The bond demands balance, the priestess intoned. The curse feeds on secrecy and fear. Pades. Only surrender by both mates can break it. Lysara felt the pulse of Kalian's soul through the bond, jagged, uneven, burdened with years of pain he had carried alone. She reached for him, placing both hands over his heart. Sparks of light danced along their fingertips, bright and crimson. "We face this together," she whispered, her voice carrying not just love, but authority. No secrets, no fear. Only truth. He had never felt so exposed, yet so seen.
I surrender, he said.
I no longer carry you alone. I share everything with you, my pain, my fears, my soul. The bond responded instantly, light surging between them, bright as the eclipse itself. The shadows twisted violently, lashing at the bond, but their unity was stronger.
Magic crackled through the air as their souls intertwined fully, not in dominance or submission, but in balance. Sereth's voice rose, chanting the final lines of the ritual.
Only through equality can the curse be destroyed. Alpha and Omega, one in will, one in strength, one in heart. The foreign Omega's eyes narrowed, her presence pressing on the bond.
Yet Lysara did not falter. She stepped closer, facing the threat with unwavering determination.
You have no power over us, Lysara said, voice steady, echoing like steel through the chamber. This bond is ours, built on trust, not fear.
Built on equality, not dominance. Leave now or be removed by the magic that protects this union. The Omega's aura shivered at her words. Beat. Something ancient and deep stirred within the priestess, but the foreign Omega did not advance. Slowly she backed away, disappearing into the shadows, leaving only a faint trace of her scent lingering in the air. Kalian exhaled, the tension in his wolf body easing slightly. "You are stronger than I ever imagined," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "And you are no longer alone," Lysara replied. Their eyes met, the bond between them now steady, powerful, and alive. Together, they completed the ritual. The lunar sigils carved in the obsidian floors glowed with silver light, wrapping around their bodies. Pain struck them both as the curse fought to cling, but it was no match for the unity they had forged. The shadows lashed once, twice, and then shattered like glass. The bond pulsed, steady and warm, The faint glowing marks on their collars, once flickering with uncertainty, now shone bright, intertwined in perfect symmetry. Alpha and Omega were no longer roles imposed by tradition. They were equals, connected by choice, trust, and love. Velmora itself seemed to breathe in relief. The winds stilled, frost softened on the stone, and the distant howl of wolves carried a note of peace. The kingdom, tied to the royal bond, had been saved. Kalian lowered his wolf form, stepping beside Lysara. He took her hands in his, and for the first time in months, there was no hesitation, no doubt, only recognition of the strength they shared.
I thought strength meant carrying everything alone, he said quietly, eyes full of unspoken regret.
And I thought love meant enduring silence, she replied softly. But now we know the truth. Strength is shared, love is chosen, not endured. A gentle warmth settled over them. Lysara's wolf purred within her, calm and content, mirroring the peace of their souls. Kalian's wolf rested at his feet, no longer restless, no longer bound by shadowed pain. Cirith approached, bowing low. "The curse has ended," she said. "The bond is healed, stronger than any magic I have seen. You have both chosen wisely. The kingdom will flourish under your rule." Lysara smiled, relief flooding her. She looked at Kalian, his expression softening as he finally allowed himself to feel the weight lifted from his shoulders. "You could have told me," she said, half teasing, half serious. "I was afraid," he admitted. "Afraid that my secrets would hurt you. Afraid that my pain would make you suffer." "And yet," Lysara said, touching his cheek, "we endured it together anyway. That is true strength." The palace seemed to glow with light, as if the magic of the ritual had extended beyond the walls. Candles flickered gently, shadows softened, and even the cold of winter felt less harsh. The bond between them pulsed in harmony with the heartbeat of Velmora itself. Later, in the quiet of the Moonspire Tower, Lysara and Kalian stood beneath the pale light of the moon. The kingdom slept peacefully below, the distant howl of wolves carrying reassurance. Kalian held her close, forehead to forehead, the warmth of their connection stronger than ever. "I thought I could protect you by carrying everything alone," he said softly. "And I thought I had to endure alone," Lysara replied. "But now we know! Protection and endurance mean nothing if we are not together." They stood in silence for a moment, letting the weight of their shared ordeals settle into comfort. The curse, the fear, the secrets, all of it had passed, leaving only understanding, trust, and love. Yet even in this peace, a whisper of warning lingered. From far beyond Velmora's borders, other alphas and omegas stirred in their packs. The ripple of the blood eclipse and the shift in the royal bond had reached their senses. Some whispered with awe, others with fear. "When Alpha and Omega become equals," a distant voice murmured, "they will either unite the realms or bring fire to them all." But for now, within the Moonspire Tower, Lysara and Kalian held each other, the warmth of the bond flowing through them, steady and unbreakable. The past had tested them. The curse had challenged them. Secrets had torn at their hearts. And yet they had chosen together. The blood eclipse faded, leaving only the silver light of the moon. Bond, shadows that had threatened the bond dissolved, replaced by peace and the promise of a new era for Velmora. Kalian whispered, "We have faced the impossible, and yet we are stronger for it." Stronger together. Always. The bond pulsed one final time, a steady heartbeat of two souls united, twin rulers of Velmora, equal in power, equal in love. And somewhere in the distant horizon, the wind carried the scent of snow and pine, of wolves and magic, whispering of stories yet to come. The kingdom would flourish. The bond was unbroken. And the Alpha and Omega had learned the truest lesson of all, that love, when shared fully, could conquer even the darkest of curses.